Sapphire.
Yes.
You know what she did? She wore her army green this morning.
I do like green. I do
very
like
much?
green. I'm going to be neutral today.
Yeah.
You can't be.
But between you, we have red and we have green, so I'm just going to be a little neutral.
Well, he's trying to pull you to the Army side against
Yes,
the Navy
I am.
side, but
Yes, I
we're
see
going to
that.
I'll stand up for the Navy today.
You can.
You're an Army man.
Well done.
But it's
Absolutely.
great to have you.
No, we're great.
Thank you
great to
very
have
much. I'm so excited to be here this morning.
And
you come
we're
in.
going to hear more about Dr. Nicole Sapphire today.
we're gonna learn a lot
Some
more
good
about her.
stuff. Maybe you can send us some
All
questions.
right.
She does know a lot of things.
We also, by the way, are going to see a lot more of this exclusive interview that Pete had with Bibi Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. That's going to be coming later this morning, but this is a very busy news morning.
really is.
Very busy.
A lot.
Yes,
Sometimes
It's a
we
big
say
day.
that, and today we really did.
A lot of
Really
activity
big day.
by the special counsel late on Friday, both in the Manafort and Cohen cases. We begin with that. Fox News Lord. Still no evidence, though, of Russian collusion after all of these court filings.
The White House claiming victory after special counsel Robert Mueller releases new court filings for Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen.
Jillian Turner is live in Washington with what this means for President. Jillian, thanks for being with us.
Good morning to you guys. So President Trump's White House team does think that the Cohen and Manafort filings are great news for them. The press secretary, who usually stays mum on matters relating to Mueller's ongoing investigation, weighed in last night with two statements, one on Manafort and one on Cohen. On Manafort, she writes, "The government's filing in Mr. Manafort's case says absolutely nothing about the president. It says even less about collusion and is devoted almost entirely to lobbying-related issues. Once again, the media is trying to create a story where there isn't one." And on Cohen, she says, "The government's filings in Mr. Cohen's case tell us nothing of value that wasn't already known. Mr. Cohen has repeatedly lied, and as the prosecution has pointed out to the court, Mr. Cohen is no hero." Now, the Office of Special Counsel, though, says Manafort lied to them repeatedly about his business dealings, though the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, told Fox News last night Manafort never lied to Mueller's team about the president specifically. He also emphasized the contrast between Manafort and Cohen, saying while Manafort has nothing to lie about, Cohen doesn't even know what to lie about. Now, Giuliani is also not worried about information still under seal, perhaps unsurprisingly. He reiterated the president and Manafort's attorneys have a joint defense agreement and added the president's team has been reassured by Manafort's attorney Kevin Downing directly that none of that info is about the president himself. Back to you guys.
All right, Jillian Turner live in Washington. Just to underscore what she's reporting there, the president tweeting one line to react to this flurry of activity, saying, quote, "totally clears the president. Thank you." That's the tweet from the president. Sounded a little bit like Ariana Grande. Thank you, next.
It's the shortest tweet
Thank
of the
you,
day that he
next.
sent,
Move
though.
on. That's what he wants to do.
And what he would, if he expanded on that, would say, okay, 2 years, millions of dollars, top Democratic lawyers, an eager press, and you have no evidence and no mention of Russian collusion. And we'll get into this, but even Michael Cohen, contacted by the Russians, didn't follow up. Nobody charged with a criminal conspiracy to collude with Russia. Even the wonderful and beautiful source of CNN, stating that nothing that emerged on Friday or with Flynn earlier in the week is any sort of smoking gun that pins collusion or obstruction of justice on Trump. So when he tweets that, I think he's right.
But, you know, I have to agree with you. The only thing they mentioned about Russia was, you know, a potential synergy that Russia tried to reach out to Cohen. But they specifically said that that meeting didn't place. Cohen didn't return those calls. So, I mean, you know.
You can't collude if you don't answer.
It's a little
They
bit.
actually say it didn't take place. So we have
point.
Joe DeGeneva, a former U.S. state attorney, says there's no evidence of Trump colluding. So let's hear a little bit more.
What we learned was that there's no evidence, again, of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign, and certainly nothing with the president personally. We learned that Michael Cohen is a kind of a rather unscrupulous individual who sought to enrich himself through the campaign and did some pretty sleazy deals after the campaign. But in fact, there is no suggestion whatsoever that the president did anything wrong, committed any crimes, or certainly had any contact with Russians. A lot of hype, a lot of sound, a lot of noise, a lot of drama, but no substance in terms of the President of the United States.
Yeah, well said. So it was a sentencing document for former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen. He is going to face time in jail, it appears, based on what the special counsel is seeking. I read that document this morning on the way in. Here's a portion of the Cohen sentencing filing that stuck out to me and to a lot of us. It said, the defendant, Michael Cohen, recalled that a Russian national repeatedly proposed a meeting between individual number one, which is known to be Donald Trump, and the president of Russia. The person told Cohen that such a meeting would have phenomenal impact, not only in politics, but in the business dimension as well. Cohen, however, did not follow up on this invitation.
So he didn't follow up on that invite. And then remember that the previous bombshell we had heard about a week or so ago was about the alleged Trump Tower in Russia that clearly the president, Michael Cohen, and others were talking about, but never came to fruition. The deal didn't happen. So maybe
and the
just
deal
like
wouldn't
this
have been
contact didn't
illegal,
happen.
by the way, though.
Right.
I mean, it's not a resigned to play for the private sector. So it wasn't illegal. So he was lying about a transaction that would have been legal anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have more contact, but not necessarily collusion.
Exactly.
Correct. Very, very different. Jonathan Turley was on the network on Special Report last night, had some very interesting insight on this point. Take a listen.
The thing that caught my eye was that synergy conversation with some unknown Russian. But it also says that nothing came out of that. Cohen didn't even follow up on it because he was already working on the Moscow project. Now, it seems to me that you could argue that Cohen at least viewed this as all about the Moscow project. He had a line going on there, didn't even pick up the phone essentially to call back this guy. If there was real collusion in a criminal sense, some type of conspiracy, this sure doesn't look like it.
So it doesn't look like it, but on the other hand, once the mainstream media got their hands, everyone's waiting for these two filings on Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort. We'll break down Manafort in a minute, but immediately the media pounced. Watch.
The big news tonight is not about Michael Cohen. It's not about Paul Manafort. It's about one person, Donald Trump.
This is the first time that federal prosecutors are accusing the president of the United States of having directed a crime.
The Department of Justice today, in the most explicit terms, said the president of the United States committed 2 felonies.
Synergy is...
Well, synergy sounds a little collusion-y.
I think it's a Harvard Business School term for collusion.
If precedent means anything in the Trump era, Donald Trump must be impeached.
Collusion-y.
Yeah.
I heard that word in there, collusion-y.
If you can't prove collusion, now you say it's collusion-y.
Collusion-y-ish, kind of ish. I looked at CNN's website this morning. Friday was a very bad day for Donald Trump.
New York Post is saying that, too.
Yeah, well, fine. Chris Cillizza, master of conventional wisdom, added he said a very, very bad day for Donald Trump and said the walls are closing in. My thing is...
We've heard that before.
Exactly. Papadopoulos is out of jail. Flynn, nothing. Cohen, he was dabbling in taxi medallions, property sales in Florida. He sold a really fancy handbag for $30,000.
Bottom line, don't lie to the feds and don't cheat your taxes.
Bottom line, none of it has to do with collusion or conspiracy with Donald Trump.
Okay, but hang on.
They're hunting Trump down, not looking for the original mandate of the special counsel.
But in the Michael Cohen document, we need to point out that they're charging at least, and the president is going to get his day in court, or at least in public opinion, that the president directed Michael Cohen to commit crimes in terms of campaign finance, in terms of paying off the women. That's the charge. And they're saying it opens a door and says that the Trump organization, his business, was not clear on these payments and that they sort of masked them. That could be a problem for his business. Then on the Paul Manafort issue, we haven't gotten to the fact that his sentencing memo, his document says that in May of this year, there's some text message from Paul Manafort allowing someone to contact an administration official, a Trump official, on his behalf. Now, was that just normal play back and forth between the lawyers, or was there something else going on that opens a door to obstruction of justice? You have to wonder why Paul Manafort and his people were talking to the administration. Why, Pete?
I say we just keep the special counsel going for another year, just keep digging for anything we can. I didn't hear a word about collusion from what you said. I didn't hear a word about conspiracy. I didn't hear a word about obstruction of justice.
But you'd be troubled by the president directing to somebody commit a crime.
That is what a lot of the media is jumping on.
We don't know what the president directed. We don't know if he knew where the money came from. This had nothing to do with Russia. This had to do with 2 women. Stormy Daniels and all that. Stormy Daniels has nothing to do with Russia. Like, to me, again, there's hunting for a crime because they want to undo the election of Donald Trump.
That may be true.
As opposed to find the truth on
other things. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Alan Dershowitz says there are no crimes here, and the special counsel will only find crimes if they stretch vague laws. On Tucker Carlson tonight, he talked about it a lot.
I don't see any crimes. What I'm afraid is going to happen is this special counsel, whose job it is only to find crimes, not sins, only crimes, will blur the line between crimes and sins and write a report designed to put the president in a bad light, but in the end, they won't be able to find any specific violations of federal criminal statutes unless they stretch these vague laws like obstruction of justice beyond any recognition.
There you go. So that is going to be the question, whether laws are being stretched. And to your point, Pete, this started with major allegations of collusion with the Russians to influence the 2016 election. Now we're talking about, did the president direct a crime? Did he? On campaign finance.
You know who also might be in trouble? Tony Podesta. A lot of speculation, the redaction.
We have a long
go
morning.
in their
We have a
direction.
long morning, guys. Well, let us know what you think. Email us at friends@foxnews.com. And we have some headlines. Carly Shimkus is
Carly,
here
good
with us
morning.
today.
Oh,
have you on the weekend.
Excited to be here.
What's up?
Happy Saturday.
Good morning to you and good morning to everybody at home. And we begin with this. James Comey is promising to return to Capitol Hill after being grilled by Republicans for nearly 7 hours. The former FBI director was questioned over decisions made during the 2016 election.
The date to come back on the 17th after a full day of questioning. Two things are clear to me. One, we could have done this in open settings. And two, when you read the transcript, you will see that we're talking again about Hillary Clinton's emails.
Well, that transcript from Friday's interview could be released as early as today. A manhunt is intensifying for an armed and dangerous Mississippi inmate escaping in shackles and handcuffs. Todd Mowdy stole a prison transport van moments after a court appearance. Mowdy told officers he didn't want to go back to jail after a judge revoked his bond on felony drug and weapons charges. The van was running with the door open when he jumped in and took off. The officer's gun was inside the vehicle. And take a look at this. This is a live look at protests heating up in Paris. The city shutting down major tourist attractions like the Eiffel Tower as demonstrators demand higher wages and better benefits following riots over a now scrapped fuel tax hike. Nearly 90,000 police officers are patrolling streets across the country. President Macron keeping out of sight, leaving his government to handle the chaos. And those guys.
A little different than when he was lecturing President Trump a couple weeks ago.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, we got a lot more to get to. Coming up, a new setback this morning for the Trump administration's asylum policy at the U.S.-Mexico border.
And it's the holiday song that's being sung by many and sparking a controversy. Christmas song. Baby, it's cold outside. Baby, it's cold outside.
You can't sing that anymore?
Dean Martin.
Oh,
One
Dean
of my
Martin's
grandmother's
daughter
favorites.
responding to the haters.